everyone for joining today's webinar, and at this time I'd like to turn it over to Bill.
Great, thanks Michelle. Welcome everyone and good morning. Like I said, welcome to HBK's monthly risk advisory webinar series. My name is Bill Heaven. I'm a senior director with HBK and our risk advisory practice. This morning we have a very interesting topic of building agile business processes with the Microsoft Power Platform. And to help us cover this topic, we have two members from our Vertilocity team that are here today to lend their expertise with the Microsoft Power Platform. Go ahead, next slide. Okay, so here's on the screen right now is the agenda that we're going to cover today. And I'd like to handle just a few housekeeping logistical issues. So number one is we've muted all our incoming lines. So if you do experience problems, you can communicate with the webinar monitor through the chat window, which we are going to be monitoring that. And we're going to try to leave about 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the presentation to answer questions. So you can, as we're going along, you can queue up questions for us by just using the chat window and sending them to the moderator, and then we'll get them. Additionally, in the webinar message center, we have a copy of today's presentation as a PDF that you can download. And then after the webinar, probably within a day or so, we will send everyone that registered a link that has a recording to the webinar as well as a copy of the slide deck. So again, the agenda here is on the screen. Next slide. Okay, this is, if you've been attending our webinars for a while, this is used to be a new section, but now it's getting to be kind of an old section, but it's basically just the learning objectives, what we're hoping to cover and what your takeaway should be after attending our webinar today. So these 5 learning objectives were sent out in the webinar description. So they're on the screen there if you want to take a look at them, or you're probably already familiar with them. All right, next slide. And if you've been on the webinars, you've heard me give this spiel before, but I've been with HBK for going on 4 years now. I handle internal IT security for HBK and its entity companies, as well as do a little bit of external client-facing work in the area of cybersecurity. Next slide. This morning, I'm joined by, as I said, I'm joined by 2 of our team members from our Vertilocity MSP practice, Justin Krentz and Tyler Main. They're both out of our Pittsburgh office. Justin is a senior manager and Tyler is a senior consultant. So Justin and Tyler, welcome to our risk advisory webinars. It's great to have you this morning. Anything that either of you would like to share with the audience about yourselves? If so, go right ahead.
Thanks, Bill. No, I think you covered it pretty well. Again, my name is Justin Krentz. I'm a senior account manager with Vertilocity out of the Pittsburgh office. Excited to be here. Appreciate everybody joining us, and look forward to presenting on some valuable information.
All right, and you can go ahead and advance the slide deck, and then we'll get right into our first agenda item and look at the at Microsoft's Power Platform. And Justin and Tyler, I'll just turn it over to you at this point, so take it away.
Great, thanks, Bill. Tyler, I didn't know if you wanted to introduce yourself before we got started here.
Yeah, sure thing. So I'm Tyler Mains, been with Vertilocity for about 6 years now. Everything from implementing ERP systems, document management systems, BI solutions, and that's a bit of a data nerd, and that's why I'm here in the position that I'm in now.
It's a nice way of putting it. But so why digital transformation? I think first let's start with what is digital transformation, right? Digital transformation refers to the adoption of technology with a goal of improving efficiency, value, innovation, right? So why is this critical? The need to go faster, I think everybody can agree that there's value in being able to expedite processes, right? Or innovate at a faster pace than you're currently going. We already have the data. It's another big one. In most instances, the information needed already exists, albeit, in siloed data sets, but being able to natively integrate these, creates a wealth of knowledge for the organization that previously didn't exist. And what does this mean for your business? What are the use cases? Being able to optimize IT performance, right? Allow you to respond more quickly, accurately, and reduce backlogs of work. This will allow you to replace or upgrade legacy applications and platforms, which in turn provide a greater resilience and agility to your business. And that also really removes the risk of legacy softwares that maybe are no longer compliant, haven't been updated, or cleaned up in the previous years. Unified data across a single platform. I see this as a huge win. Being able to integrate line of business solutions and eliminate those siloed data sets, that becomes a big win. And the last item, again, another big one, reduce time and costs by optimizing everyday tasks, right? Being able to utilize intelligent automation to differentiate your business from the competition. So those were the use cases, but what are the challenges? Obviously, there's always going to be challenges to implementing such a solution. Things such as budget, time, resource constraints that you would have to put towards this type of project. IT team, business partnerships. I think everybody can agree that they're very busy right now, and it's difficult to hire and staff, right? So who's going to really oversee and manage this and see it through? Existing technology systems that are tied in with complex processes. Sometimes it's not easy to change the way you've been doing things. So, certainly recognize that there's challenges with the digital transformation. But what does it boil down to? At some point, if you fail to transform, you face the threat of becoming irrelevant, right? You risk losing out, to those who have committed to disruptive change in your industry. So what's really the bigger threat to your business? Is it pursuing a change in process and automation that might be difficult or have its challenges, or is it just staying put? So I found this to be a really, really powerful and interesting stat. More than half of the companies that were on the Fortune 500 in 2000 are now gone. I think that really shows that we're moving at such a pace these days that it is very easy to be left in the dust. If you're not always innovating and finding ways to be disruptive in your industry.
So Justin, are you seeing that so it almost makes it seem like maybe some people, not that they don't want to transform, but they're just, afraid to, or what part of it is that versus just being, not innovative?
I mean, that's a great question, Bill. I think it's an issue of, individuals are going to proceed with the path of least resistance, right? So what's easier to try to innovate and go through this painful transition to transform, or is it, hey, let's stay put, things seem to be going well, let's just kind of stay the course and see this through? I mean, at some point, staying the course and not challenging your organization and trying to find ways to innovate is going to be the downfall of the business. So, I think it's a lot of short-sighted leadership, I would say, that doesn't want to deal with the pain associated with changing processes and operations, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thanks. Okay, good. Very interesting. So now that we've got a little bit of the table set, let's move on to our next agenda item and talk about some of the expected gains we can expect if we're going to, be doing this modernization.
Perfect. So, rather than me, bore everybody, I thought it might be valuable to provide some video content. So here's a quick video from Microsoft that really shows, what the Power Platform means for your business.
Anything could happen today, and anything could happen tomorrow. An organization's ability to adapt quickly to changing circumstances has never been more critical. To ensure business users stay productive and efficient through twists and turns, organizations must stay active in keeping up with modern tools and processes. Build Agile business processes from Microsoft helps you update or replace legacy apps to optimize IT performance, reducing both time and costs. Empower your team for secure remote collaboration by integrating apps and automating workflows, and build a resilient supply chain with intelligent tools and end-to-end visibility. Reduce the overhead of your day-to-day and keep your organization adaptable to changing technologies and demand. Contact your Microsoft partner to learn more.
So again, just some interesting stats here, all of which can be addressed through the Power Platform. 73% of organizations feel that they're not able to accurately plan, right? Because of all of these siloed data sets, right? The systems aren't talking with each other. They can't look at these, various data sets in a single pane of glass. I found this to be a bit of a depressing stat, but 37% of organizations are still using paper to manage their critical businesses. Not only is that depressing, it's also terrifying to think about, right? That is an area where if an organization is still on paper, they're so far behind the 8 ball already that they should really be evaluating their processes. Overcoming technical skills shortages. Again, I touched on this earlier, but IT skill shortages, are preventing organizations from keeping up with the pace of change. So finding other ways to innovate, right, and change and use the tools that are available to kind of overcome some of those shortages really becomes critical. And really, to summarize things before I kick things over to Tyler, Power Platform allows you to create a culture of innovation, right? So you're able to realize untapped value that you couldn't access before. And with that, I will hand things over to Tyler Maines to walk through the technical side of things.
Thanks, Justin. So yeah, we've discussed the need and the benefits for digital transformation and modernization. So now I'm going to be taking you through the solutions that really get that done, the solutions within the Power Platform. So the Power Platform is a Microsoft solution, just like Office 365, Azure, Dynamics 365, and others. There are 3 main components that we're going to focus on. First is Power BI. That's going to be your business analytics, dashboards, reporting, etc. In terms of data, think of this as visualizing your data. Second, we have Power Apps. These are applications that are built and used by anyone within the organization. In terms of data, this is your data input, working with that data. And last but not least, we have Power Automate. Just like the name suggests, this is for automation, transformation. In terms of data, these are data workflows. Now, these are all standalone applications. You don't need to use all 3. They each have their own purpose. And I want to emphasize that just because these are Microsoft applications, that doesn't mean you have to use them with other Microsoft applications, your Excel, your Outlook. You can still use these with other services like G Suite and others. So what we're going to be doing is introducing each of these products with a short video. I'll be giving a brief summary, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper into the core components of what make up each product. So Justin, if you want to go to the next slide. So what better way to introduce a visualization tool than with a video? So this will show off some of its features. We might not have audio.
Oh, you can do all of that and so much more. Introducing Power BI by Microsoft. Power BI is a cloud-based business analytics service, enabling anyone to visualize and analyze data with greater speed, efficiency, and understanding. Get started with Power BI in seconds. Just sign up and you're good to go. Within minutes, you'll see your data in new ways thanks to content packs, pre-built dashboards and reports by popular service providers like Salesforce.com or Google Analytics. And in one dashboard, you'll experience a live 360-degree view of your business. Monitor your data in real time from nearly any device across all major operating systems. Set up mobile alerts to your phone when your data changes, and share your reports and dashboards with ease. Your data is available anywhere your company needs it to be, out in the field, at corporate headquarters, or in the back of a taxi. Drag and drop features enable you to go deeper with your data and explore it in new ways by asking simple questions. No need to learn a new language with Power BI. Easily clean, shape, and model your data to create impactful, shareable reports. Power BI. Experience your data. Any data, any way, anywhere. Sign up for Power BI today.
All right, Justin, if you want to go to the next slide, I'll just be going over some.
I have to unmute myself for the sound. Sorry about that, buddy.
No, that's okay. The beginning part basically just said the data is all around us, and we basically need a tool to obtain that data. And then, yeah, that was really all that we missed. So I just want to go over the important takeaways of what that video went over. So, quick and confident decisions. These are real-time visualizations. Because of that, alerts you're getting are real-time. They're not, coming in days later, weekly, monthly, you name it. So your decisions that you're making based on these visualizations are in real time. You're spending less time wrangling your data up, so you're just signing in to Power BI, connecting to your data, utilizing pre-built dashboards, or building your own dashboards with pre-built data sets. And lastly, this is a single unified platform. So you're consolidating multiple data sources. It's being stored in the cloud and shared with anyone inside or outside of your organization. So the next slide, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the core components. So, any data. This truly means that you can obtain any data that you're currently using with your data being all around you, whether it's on premises, in the cloud, you have a pre-built connector, or you build your own. You can really access any data. Next, insights with anyone. So these dashboards can be shared internally or externally, and Microsoft is authenticating it throughout the process. So with a Microsoft account, it'll make sure that only the right people access the right data. Seamless integrations. This will consolidate multiple data sources into that single data model, and then that extensibility model will allow you to embed these dashboards into apps and websites that you're currently using in your organization for all members to view and utilize. Next, we have the WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. Bonus points if you've used that in a sentence before. But this is the drag and drop design of building these dashboards. Choosing a field, choosing a visualization type, dropping it into a dashboard. It's really that easy. And speaking of data visualizations, there are hundreds of visualizations within Power BI, and there's also a marketplace where you can download other custom built ones, and you can even build your own. In terms of native intelligence, so this does use AI, artificial intelligence. So Power BI will make suggestions based on the data that you import to maybe show you some trends that you didn't otherwise notice. And it'll also recommend some visualizations as well. Lastly, big data support. So you'll never have too much data for Power BI. Leveraging things like Azure Data Services, like the data lake, data warehousing, and others, you're not going to have too much data. So that's
Tyler?
it for Power. Yes.
Tyler, so I guess the first thing I'm thinking when I'm looking at this is, so when Vertilocity goes in to work with one of your clients, do they know what data they have and what data they want, or do you really have to kind of guide them because they're, like I was talking to Justin a little bit, they're a little bit apprehensive and maybe don't want to, break something. So is it more where you're really guiding people and your expertise is really coming into play, or how does that always transpire?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of times what happens, a client brings us in and they think they know what they want, and they have a list of things that they're looking for. And then we start digging into the data and showing them what they have and what we can do. And oftentimes that list changes in a good way, and they get a lot more than they thought. But definitely it's a mixture of both. Definitely we'll address their needs, but we often exceed those as well.
I was gonna add to that. In a lot of cases, Bill, we find it's a scenario of I don't know what I don't know, right? So, they recognize that there's gaps, but they don't know, that these type of tools are available. Where wait, I can actually integrate and get a visual with all of this data consolidated into one place, and then that's really where, as Tyler mentioned, the conversation would go where we can kind of guide them and assist in reevaluating and defining, what the end goal and what data they're looking for. What are they looking to get out of the system?
So basically the experience, it sounds like the experience is very important. That, I'd be much better, working with someone like Vertilocity than just anybody that I find off the internet, because, you could really get lost really quickly and spend a lot of money and not get anything. So it sounds
Sure.
like experience is a key thing that you should look for.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's where the smart guys like Tyler add a lot of value to our clients.
Yeah, it's easy to get started, but that's a dangerous thing as well. So doing it the right way is very important.
The key would be knowing when you're done.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's it for Power BI. We've gone through visualizing your data. Now we're going to talk about data input. So Justin, go ahead.
With Microsoft Power Apps, everyone, no matter their skill set, can add business value by quickly and securely developing innovative apps that reduce inefficiencies and solve business challenges. How? Low code. Low code removes barriers to app development with pre-built templates and drag and drop simplicity, empowering anyone on your team to turn bright ideas into brilliant apps. Get started now and discover what you can build.
So in the next slide, what I'm going to be going over are two main takeaways, low code and collaboration. So Justin, if you want to go to the next slide.
With Microsoft.
So if you do any kind of research into Power Apps, you're going to see the phrase low code everywhere. And that's one of the, that's what they emphasize, Microsoft emphasizes. So you don't need to be a developer or have extensive experience to build a Power App. You can use this on the web or pretty much any device that you can download Power Apps within an app store to read and write data with other data sources. The next takeaway is collaboration. So these apps can be published by anyone in the organization for anyone. So You can also connect using similar connections as Power BI to any data sources. So, collaboration within the organization, right? Any user can connect to any data sources that are being shared across the organization, and anyone can work together within these apps. So just in the next slide, we'll go over those key fundamentals as well, just like we did for Power BI. Maybe go one more slide. I don't see the, okay. You might have to click, looks like maybe 6, there should be 6. There we go. So any platform support. Because these apps are used on devices, these are downloaded onto individual devices, they'll have access to things such as the camera, the GPS, drawing signatures, etc. So the apps will be able to leverage these tools. You can also share these apps just like documents. So like I said, with the collaboration, someone builds an app, you can share that app in about 3 clicks in an email address, and then others can start using these apps. The next 3 are very similar to Power BI. So the seamless integration with other apps, especially within the Power Platform and in Microsoft. But then the WYSIWYG drag and drop design when you're building these apps, taking fields, dropping them onto an app, choosing what kind of data type you're using. It's a very nice user experience. And then data connectivity. So hundreds of other services you can connect to, not just Microsoft. The difference between Power BI and Power Apps is the built-in data platform. So Power Apps uses the common data service. So Power BI, you're going to have your data model. It's mostly numbers and statistics, whereas Power Apps is using data in other ways. So the common data service is going to take your different data sources and consolidate them and standardize the data in other ways that you can use it. So Justin, if you want to go to the next slide. We've discussed visualizing data, entering and working with data, but now let's talk about automating data. If you want to play that video.
These days, there's a cloud service to do just about anything. Problem is, there's no good way to get your favorite apps to talk to each other, to connect them, and automate the tasks that are so time-consuming. Or is there? With Microsoft Power Automate, whether you start from a template or create your own multi-step flow across several apps, it's simple. Why constantly check email when you can get a text message whenever someone important emails you? Automating that means you can use that time to do other things. And Power Automate can really help get things connected. Say someone tweets about your company. Set up a flow that follows them, sends a nice reply, adds them to a spreadsheet that gets emailed to you for your approval, then adds their contact to Salesforce or Dynamics 365. You can also get and manage approvals using Power Automate on the web, your phone, or even right from your inbox. And this streamlined approval process works with data in SharePoint, Microsoft Dynamics 365, Twitter, MailChimp, and over 100 other services. And with the Power Automate app, you can monitor, manage, and create flows from anywhere. For tasks that need to happen now, like instantly blocking out the next hour in your calendar, we've designed flows that start with the tap of a button. How about that? That's technology talking together, working smarter, so you can work less, do more.
Hey Tyler, one question I was just thinking with that when they're excuse me, when they're listing all those applications that the Power Platform and the various components of it work. So I'm guessing it would be an advantage to using Microsoft to do that, because if any of, I mean, I keep reading about stuff where Apple's changing this or Facebook's changing that or Twitter's changing this other thing. Is it Microsoft that kind of tries to keep on top of all that to say that if something needs to change, then they change it within the Power Platform, or is that something that's going to come back to the Vertilocity and the client to figure out when better? Can't think of a better way to say this. When something breaks, how do we get it put back together, or does Microsoft handle that part?
Sure. So that's a good point. When there are updates to other outside services, Microsoft is going to have to update the connections that they're developing. And yes, that may break connections, but typically the developers are on top of it, and they'll send out notifications, and we get those updates for changes. So we will stay on top of any updates. But there is another side note to that, is that's another advantage of kind of sticking with the Microsoft platforms and the Microsoft ecosystem, is that they're always going to work together. So I like to throw that in there as well. But certainly we do offer that support for the outside the outside Microsoft services. That those are managed, maintained by Microsoft, and we do get those updates.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a good, that should give clients some comfort, though, because I mean, you're never going to get, like, we're back to what Justin kicked us off with, was saying that people that don't innovate, basically become extinct. So it's not like I'm saying you can't do that, but it's, with the change of the pace of change, I should say, it's going to happen, and you can't just sit on the sidelines, or you'll be out of the game. But it's good to hear that, with your experience of what it's like to work with Microsoft, that they're staying relatively on top of that. It's not that you're not going to have a hiccup here or there, but you're not going to be out of the game. They're a big enough player that they're going to help you get through stuff like that.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, and with Power Automate, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. There was a lot that it went over. Really, the main components of Power Automate here, we start with a single trigger. From there, we have actions, and then within those actions, there are conditions that decide what actions to perform. So we have this workflow process for each flow. You're most likely already using cloud services, maybe some for different purposes, some for similar purposes. What this is doing is allowing them to communicate with each other and take action based on the data within separate services. You start with a template, and then you can start building complex workflows from there. But there are hundreds of templates in Power Automate. Easily search for exactly what you're looking for, and searching will match you with those results for the templates that'll get you started. The point here really is save time and automate your manual processes with Power Automate. So the next slide, similar to the others, we're going to go over some of the key components. So within Power Automate, we have hundreds of triggers. Just like in the video that it showed, MailChimp, SurveyMonkey, Salesforce, just like the other Power Platform applications, you're going to be able to connect to all of these. The triggers themselves, we have manual buttons, we have scheduled triggers, and triggers dependent on the actions of other services as well. So these really collaborate, communicate with each other very well. Similar to Power Apps, we can share these flows. So maybe you implement one that works really well for you personally. You want to share it with a colleague. Simple as just sending that over with their email address. In terms of intelligent automation, so when you're building these workflows, additional actions are recommended based on the actions, the triggers, the services that you're choosing, giving you that assistance and ideas that you might not have thought of throughout that workflow. Next, we have thousands of actions. So similar, based on the hundreds of triggers, we're going to have thousands of actions based on each of those triggers. The actions are going to be specific to the triggers and the sources that you select to kind of work you through the workflow, so it's not overwhelming. And then in terms of data connectivity, so again, we've got hundreds of services, just like the other products in the Power Platform. Lastly, it's going to use the common data service like Power Apps to standardize that information, working with the data in similar ways. So Justin, if you want to go to the next slide, we just have a quick summary. So, we went over 3 main topics: analyzing your data with Power BI, acting on your data with Power Apps, and then automating that data with Power Automate.
Okay, so thank you, Tyler. That was very informative there. So I think let's move on to our next section and talk about some of our success stories that our speakers from Vertilocity have seen with what they've been working with clients with.
So, so far we've kind of gone through the theory, just introduced the Power Platform. We're going to go through some practical applications of real use cases that that we've done to give you a better understanding of what these can do. So our first example here is Brewster's Real Ice Cream. They're a franchise with about 200 locations, and they make their ice cream in-house daily. Their challenge was being able to forecast their sales because it's so strongly dependent on the weather, right? We're in Western Pennsylvania. Just this week, I think we've seen everything from rain to hail to snow. And then this weekend, it's going to be about 80 degrees and sunny. So think about that, that challenge of being able to forecast what your sales are when the weather is changing all the time. So what we did was we put together a Power BI dashboard pointing to the National Weather Service as a data source. So it's retrieving those weather forecasts every day, and we're consolidating that with their sales data and their ERP system historically. So essentially the dashboard is telling them for a given store, in Pittsburgh, typical 70-degree and sunny day in the month of May, what their historical sales may have been, and really forecasting what that demand might look like for a given day. So it's really helping them forecast their demand and accurately schedule and accurately choose how much ice cream to make on a given day, so they're not overproducing, they're not overstaffing, and this data is really in the hands of the store managers. So for their given location, right, the dashboard is filtered for them, so they only see what they should. They can see historical sales for their location, they can see the weather forecast, and they can make those intelligent decisions based on just 2 data sources. So that's one of my favorite ones that I like to go over. Also because I love ice cream. So
yeah. So Tyler, if you ever if something doesn't work right and they get too much ice cream, just let me know.
Right.
I was going to say this one I just think is so cool, right? Think of the savings in inventory and product in overstaffing or understaffing, right? Just by being able to take these 2 data sets and put them together to create a visualization, right? 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, if it was going to be like Tyler mentioned, snowing 2 days this week and then sunny and 80, that would be a huge disruption to their business, right? They're not properly forecasting, they're not properly staffing. They could be, missing inventory for that 80-degree day that's coming up. So it's just amazing what this simple tool has been able to do for their operations.
So you're saying I'm not going to have extra ice cream?
Maybe we'll see if they can send us, a couple gallons for all the ice cream that they've saved over the last couple of years with that. So
okay, sounds good.
And so this next example, it's not as flashy or as exciting as ice cream, but it's one of the most common scenarios that we see. We've already discussed, right? So we've got paper processes with filing cabinets kind of holding us back, right? So this is Apex Health, licensed third-party administrator of employee benefit programs. So their challenge, again, paper processes, filing cabinets, kind of the old school way of doing things. And specifically, they wanted to track employee onboarding, terminations, privacy incidents, and breaches, right? Really important processes that you really want to make sure is tracked properly and well kept for auditing, process improvement, other reasons. So our solution, we utilize Microsoft Forms for just simple data form input, and then we use Power Automate to transfer that data input to SharePoint Online lists. The SharePoint on lists essentially acted as to-dos, showing this employee is being onboarded at this specific date. These are the needs that they have, and then essentially with the metadata within those lists, due dates and needs, we could send out reminders and approvals and other things to make sure that everyone that's involved that needs to be, is properly going through the process and doing what they need to. Within those SharePoint lists, we're tracking things like document attachments, all the data coming from the forms, all of the approvals, who made the approval, the comments on the approvals, all of these are coming through Power Automate and being saved in SharePoint Online. And as these tasks are being completed, their statuses are being updated, they're being removed from the overall to-do, being stored in more of an archival status for that reference, for auditing and other purposes. So it's a very, it's a great way to take a form, save it in another location for complete visibility for everyone that should be able to see that data. Everyone can act on that data that needs to, and it's being tracked and visible throughout history. And lastly, our third example here, we have Irwin Car Equipment. So they provide equipment for metals, mining, tunneling, energy, transportation industries. Often the equipment they provide is custom and made to order. And their ERP system had trouble tracking and supporting some of the orders that they had. And because of that, maybe there were delayed shipments or they didn't have proper inventory, you name it. So what we did was implement SharePoint again, Power Automate, and Power BI. So within SharePoint, we had SharePoint lists of functional queues, starting from the quoting process, the ordering, assembly, eventually shipping and delivery. Each of these queues storing the data, that was pertinent to each queue. The data could be acted upon within SharePoint Online, and then Power Automate would again be doing the approvals, the notifications, transferring the data between queues, and so on. And throughout that process, Power BI was visualizing all of it. So you had dashboards for each queue, or maybe a separate dashboard specific to a project manager so they could see their projects. Or maybe a dashboard specific to purchasing for inventory purposes, so they could see what in their ERP system is on hand versus what's in their functional queue of orders coming in. So we were able to consolidate between the ERP system and SharePoint using Power BI, and then another great KPI visualization that we did was embed these tracking numbers within Power BI, so customer service could actually click on tracking numbers, and right in front of them would pop up the delivery details with estimates. And so what we want to emphasize is that this really put all of the information, all of the data in everyone's hands for everyone to make these decisions and really help them throughout their day-to-day business. So Power BI is an extremely powerful tool, connecting to all of these different data sources for visualizations, really empowering employees. And so this last one, this isn't one that we've done, but it's a nice inspirational story that Microsoft tells. of an employee at an organization that used the Power Platform on their own to solve overall business processes and automate their responsibilities and really move up in the organization. So I love sharing this story.
My name is Martin Lee. I work for Autoglass. Been with the company for about 5 years. So when I first started Autoglass, I started as a dispatcher. I did all the kind of reporting side of it. I had to do all these reports every day, and it's just time consuming. And that was making most of my day. And I thought, if I can shorten my time, I can get on with better things. That's where Power Apps come in. So I started looking into it. I thought, oh yeah, that's quite easy. And I was actually started building an app, and it was actually really great. I built an app called Technician Weekly Vehicle Check. Technician used to have to fill a form in, take a picture of it, send it to his operations manager. He'll have to put it on an Excel spreadsheet. It was just a long process. Now that's just filling an app. Technicians love it. It's just literally saved their time from half an hour per job to like 10 minutes, saving us 1.6 million a year in potential revenue. I felt excited. Everyone's using this app I've created. I'm like, wow, I've done that. People just kept coming to me to build these apps. Now I'm going into IT, which is a different role. It's amazing where my career's gone now. I've built about 40 apps now deployed in the company. The apps are working so well here in the UK. Safelite now want to deploy our technical help desk in the USA. Just the thought of my apps being used around the world gives me such a proud feeling.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Tyler and Justin. So let's wrap up today's webinar this morning. And so hopefully you found this presentation provided some valuable information. Now we'll move into our Q&A and see what's in there. Let's go ahead and advance to the next slide. And then Michelle, if you've got any questions that have come in, we can field those now.
Yes, we had a couple questions that came in. The first one is, if a company wants to use the Power Platform, how do they get started?
Sure, I can jump in here. So first and foremost, they're going to need the licensing for it, which is available through Microsoft. If you're already using Office 365, I'd recommend reaching out to your Microsoft partner, cloud solutions provider, whomever you're actively licensing through right now. If you aren't an Office 365 current subscriber, there are trial versions that you would have access to that you can, start to, again, formulate a plan around. But that's really going to be the first step. Tyler, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that.
Sure. So, chances are you may already be licensed for these products. If you have an enterprise level license, a lot of these products are already included. So, definitely check with your Microsoft partner to see what kind of licensing you have. And then to take it a little step further, Microsoft also has a lot of great resources on Microsoft Learn. So after you do get that license and you install or open that application, there are great learning resources in Microsoft Learn.
Yeah, and again, our information's here on the screen. So if whomever asked that, if there's specifics that they want to go over or touch on, again, I'd be happy to have a conversation. My email's on there, my phone number as well. This is Tyler's. So.
Great. I think that's beneficial to get people started. Michelle, any other questions? I think we got about looks like we got 5 or 10 minutes left here. We can field a couple more, assuming they're out there.
Yeah, absolutely. The next question is, does Vertilocity have canned Power Platform solutions that can be marketed to clients? If so, what are they?
Justin, I'll take care of this one. So these solutions, by nature are pretty heavily customized to fit specific business needs. That being said, they can be exported. The of course credentials and company specific data is not included. It's more or less the actions and the sources, connections without credentials. Those can be exported. So we can take and leverage some of the projects we've already done and implement those for others. With an amount of customization and tailoring for each company.
Okay, thanks. I think we have looks like I think there's just one or two more questions, and we have about 10 minutes. So why don't we do one more question, and then we'll give people about 5 minutes of their day back.
Okay,
Michelle,
the last question.
we have that. We do have one more, right?
Yeah, the last question that came in was, what if we don't have Office 365? Is there a way I could still use the Power Platform?
Sure. So I think I touched on that a bit on the first question, but there are trial versions that you can have access to, where you can start to leverage those solutions, and then you can just license accordingly after the fact. Tyler, I'm not sure if there's more information you want to talk around integration with other solutions, but
right. Yeah, just to emphasize that you don't need to use Outlook and Excel and the other Microsoft applications to work with these. You can strictly use the Power Platform, those applications, with the applications that you're currently using. So you're not essentially revamping or changing much of your business. You're adding the Power Platform to connect with what you're already doing. Certainly you can switch over to Office 365 if you're not using it, but that doesn't mean that you have to.
Okay, and that was our last question, correct, Michelle?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So like Justin said earlier, the screen is the slide that's up on the screen right now has all the contact information. If you have any questions about the Power Platform, just reach out to either Justin or Tyler, email, phone number, and they'll be glad to help you. If there's any questions about security perspectives or anything, just feel free to reach out to me, and we'll do the best between the three of us to get your question answered promptly. I'd like to thank you again for attending this morning's webinar. Hopefully you found it valuable, and I'd like to put out a save the date for, we do this monthly on the fourth Wednesday of the month. So the next webinar is going to be on May 25th, which is the last Wednesday of the month. So we'll probably 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time, we'll get you a webinar invitation out so that you can sign up. And then take us to our next slide, and we'll as they say, we'll stick a fork in it. So again, I'd really like to thank both Justin and Tyler. I thought that was a really cool presentation that they put together for us. So I give you some real valuable information of how you can keep your business from becoming extinct. So really want to thank them for doing this webinar this morning, and thank you all for attending, and I hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Thank you very much for attending, and we'll see you next month. Goodbye.
Thanks so much, everybody.